This monster's terrifying, but the real nightmare is this kid. Being a single mother must be rough. We start off seeing a woman, Amelia, panicking in a car before an accident happens. She can hear her child calling out to her, and that wakes her up from this nightmare. But just before she wakes up, we see a man beside her in the car. Her son Samuel tells her he had that dream again, whatever that means. She takes him to his room and shows him that there are no monsters in his wardrobe or under his bed, and then reads him a story. And if that's the image he sees every night before he sleeps, then I can see why he's having nightmares. By the way, that accent tells me that this movie is Australian. Now that's interesting, mate. Anyway, Samuel now tells his mom that he'll clap the monster next time he comes. And next thing, he's asleep. The alarm wakes him up later and he's up making noise, which then wakes up his mom. She goes downstairs to see him with a contraption made to clap the monster whenever it shows up. But for now, he uses it to smash the window. His mom is not happy. Next, he's dressed as a magician and he does a trick where he brings out a flower from nowhere for his mom. Then he touches her chin and gives her a very tight hug. Wholesome. You can see that this little boy is already the man of the house. Amelia drops him off at school and goes off to work where she cares for elderly people. Boomers. She has a brief conversation with a colleague, Robbie, and not long after she's summoned to her son's school. He brought one of his contraptions to school. Cool clock, Ahmed. Moment. Thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. The school authorities are now suggesting that Samuel be separated from the rest of the kids and a monitor assigned to him to supervise him one-on-one because of his behavioral problems. Amelia says her son can't survive with that arrangement as he already sees himself as different from everybody else. But the guys insist, so she says she'll just withdraw her son from the school. Bad idea. Homeschooled kids are the weirdest. Now we see Amelia and Samuel in the car and they head to a supermarket where Samuel has made a new friend. When the little girl's mom comes around, Samuel just blurts out that his dad is in the cemetery because he got clapped when he was driving his mom to the hospital to have him. Next, we see Amelia and Samuel at the park. Amelia's on a bench talking with her sister Claire, while both their kids are playing together on and around the swing. The women are talking about the little children's birthdays, and as it appears, there's now a change of plans. Apparently, Ruby doesn't want to celebrate it with Sam anymore. Amelia says it's okay, but you can see from her face that she's exhausted with all that's happening. Sam, by the way, has climbed to the top of the swing, and we now quickly cut to him and his mom heading home. They say hi to their neighbor Gracie, and they head in. Inside, Amelia sees her dog scratching the basement door, but she doesn't think much of it. She just carries him and leaves. I've learned to never ignore the instincts of dogs. Amelia will learn soon. Anyway, she and her son have dinner later that night. Then they go through their nightly ritual of checking the wardrobe and under the bed for monsters. Then lastly, to the bedtime story. Sam picks a book from the shelf. The title? Mr. Babadook. Oh, the movie is just about to start. The book basically talks about being Babadook's friend, and you know he's around when you hear a rumbling sound and 3 sharp knocks. Ba ba ba, dook dook dook. Amelia is not very comfortable with this book, so she closes it and asks that they read another one. But Sam reminds her that she told him he could pick the book to read tonight, so they get back to it. There are scary images in the book, and the words get scarier. It says something about not being able to sleep a wink when you see him in your room at night, and once you see what's underneath the disguise, you'll wish you were dead. How the heck is a book like this on a child's shelf? Of course, Sam is scared. He's probably going number 2 in his pants right now. Amelia tries to read him another book, but it's not helping. Next thing, Amelia is reading the book on her own like she's trying to figure out what this diabolical piece of literature is all about. Now, instead of her throwing this book out or burning it up or something, she goes to put it on top of her wardrobe and goes to the living room to watch TV. Everything on TV is sussy this time of day. You know how late night TV is. So she turns off the TV and goes upstairs to her room to, go to sleep. But the problem is that the low vibrating sound of her back massager device makes her son think the Babadook has come to visit. So he runs into his mom's room and jumps on her bed. This must have been equal parts awkward and frustrating for Amelia. But her little boy puts his arm around her and promises her that he'll protect her and won't let anything bad happen to her. Let's just move on. Later, Amelia hears a sound while she's reading, but it's nothing this time. She sleeps off and wakes up the next morning without incident. She gets Sam ready for school and this boy wants to carry his little weapon again, but she stops him. Her sister will be watching him today and she warns him not to talk of monsters, the Babadook, or anything like that. He says he won't, but I'd be stupid to trust this little rascal. Amelia now heads off to work. She meets Robbie, who tells her to go on and have a break. He'll cover for her. So she goes to have ice cream, and when she's in the parking lot, she notices a couple embracing in a car opposite to hers, and she gets lost in the romance. Well, until the lady catches her looking. That prompts her to look at her phone and she has 10 missed calls, all from Claire. She rushes off to her house and sees Sam on the floor with Claire holding on to her daughter. She immediately starts yelling at Amelia. Apparently Sam scared the crap out of Ruby with his talk about the Babadook. I told you, man, this little boy can't help himself. Claire tells Amelia to get him professional help, that it's not normal for a little boy to go on talking about rubbish like this. Sam insists it's not rubbish, it's real, and then he throws a firecracker on the floor. We now see Amelia and Sam in the car. She says if the Babadook is real, they'll see it right now. But Sam says that's not how it works. He says the Babadook wants to scare you first before you see it. She says she isn't scared and he tells her she'll be when it creeps into her room at night and eats her insides. I don't think she'd mind. Now would you take a look at little Sam? All of a sudden, he's the Babadook expert. At home, Amelia's making lunch while Sam is doing his magic performance to his audience of his teddy bears, dog, and a picture of his parents. He throws firecrackers on the floor and starts telling his dad not to worry that he'll take care of mom. But his mom is not in the mood to be taken care of now. She scolds Sam for going down to the basement because all his dad's things are down there. As she's talking to him, Robbie shows up with flowers for her and a little gift for Sam. But the little boy throws a tantrum and runs upstairs. Amelia now goes downstairs and sees what a mess Sam has made. She clears things up. At dinner, Amelia finds shards of glass in her food, which is really strange. Sam says it's the Babadook. Sam goes to watch his magic DVDs, and later at night, Amelia sees clothes scattered on the floor in the room and a picture of her and her husband with his face mutilated. She thinks it's Sam who did it again. Sam tells her it was the Babadook. We now see Amelia sitting at the dining table looking really frustrated. She's having a migraine. The flickering light isn't helping. Then all of a sudden, she hears a sound upstairs and she runs straight to her son's room to see him curled under the bed. She carries him and puts him on the bed, and from his face you can tell that he's scared to death. He's now repeatedly saying, "Don't let it in." Amelia just takes the Mr. Babadook book, rips it completely apart, and puts it in the garbage outside. She thinks that it's all over now, but we all know it's not. That night, the lights flicker and she hears a sound outside, but it's nothing more than that. She and her son sleep peacefully that night, and Sam wakes her up in the morning asking if they really have to go to Ruby's party today. Of course, you know the answer. And next thing, we see Sam and Amelia at the party, and she literally has to beg Sam to go play with the other kids outside. Meanwhile, in here, the ladies are being pretty condescending to Amelia, so she lashes out. Now we see Ruby confronting Sam in the treehouse, and the cousins get into an argument. Ruby tells Sam that her mom said she won't go to Sam's house because it's too depressing. Nah, kids don't even know how to keep secrets. Sam then tells her that the Babadook will eat her mom for breakfast and rip her arms off, so he wouldn't have to be with him and his mom. Ruby hits back by telling Sam that his dad died so he wouldn't have to be with him, and that his mom doesn't want him. Wow, Sammy and Ruby sitting on the tree. Cussing. Meanwhile, Claire's telling Amelia to move on, but Amelia's confronting her about how she has been treating her. She asks her why she doesn't come to her house again, and Claire says it's because she can't stand Sam. Sam, who, by the way, has got fed up with the mean things Ruby is saying to him, and now pushes her off the treehouse. Claire immediately goes to grab her daughter, who now has a broken nose, and goes off. Now we see Amelia driving Sam home, and the little boy just keeps making an incredible amount of noise. Amelia now stops the car and starts yelling at him to just be normal, but then Sam looks to his side and starts yelling, "Get out!" Moments later, he has a seizure, and she rushes him to see a pediatrician who runs checks on him and says he's suffering from a high level of anxiety. He now refers Amelia to a psychiatrist for him. She asks the doctor for some sedatives because Sam's nightmares have been really bad lately. He gives her some, and later that night, she's trying to feed him his medicine when he just suddenly hugs her and says he doesn't want her to die. She manages to get him to take the pills, and that should mean a good night's sleep, but does it? Well, for him, yes, but for Amelia, not so much. She hears 3 knocks on the door, but there's no one there. The knocks get louder and she goes back to check. All she sees is the Mr. Babadook book on her foot mat. She takes the book inside to examine it, and it has been carefully pieced back together. And no wait, it has even been updated. It says the more she denies him, the stronger he gets. The Babadook is an incel. Also, something about the Babadook growing under her skin. There's now even a pop-up of a woman I assume is supposed to represent her clapping a dog, strangling a little boy, which should be Sam, and then later clapping herself with a knife. Now she takes the book outside and burns it. I know I suggested that earlier, but honestly, it seems like it's too late for that now. After the burning, Amelia gets on the phone with Claire and is trying to narrate her problems to her, but Claire just dismisses her. She tells her she can't help her and immediately hangs up. Shortly after, Amelia gets a call. She thinks it's Claire calling back, but all she hears is this really creepy voice saying Babadook. That's it. She has had enough. She goes straight to the police to report a stalking. She explains that someone sent her a children's book with graphic images of her and her child being clapped. Of course, they asked to take a look at the book, but now that she has burnt it, there's nothing to show, and so there's nothing they can do. I have a feeling that that book will be making its way back to you soon, Amelia. Just hold tight. Anyway, Amelia catches sight of what looks like the Babadook's coat and hat in the background, and she immediately just turns 360 degrees and leaves. She's back home and her neighbor, Gracie, makes a comment about Sam being just like his dad, and Amelia snaps at her for always bringing her husband up. She takes Sam and goes into her flat. Her dog is acting strange, but she doesn't think much of it. What did I say about dogs' instincts? But then she sees some cockroaches creeping around and traces them to a hole behind the fridge, where she sees more coming out. She immediately does an emergency cleanup thinking the cockroaches are here because the house is dirty. Now come on, Amelia, you know why they're here. Anyway, as she's cleaning, she receives some visitors from the Department of Community Services. They're here to check on Sam, and Sam's saying that he's really tired from the drugs his mom gave him isn't helping Amelia's case at all. They hand her a form to fill and tell her they'll be back in a week to discuss her options. But before they leave, Sam shows up and says he thinks he's going to vomit. Later that night, Amelia's doing the dishes when she notices the Babadook in Gracie's house, but she looks away and looks again and he's no longer there. Sam says he's going to head to bed now, but he's only 6 and Amelia would actually love him to stay up with her for a while because she's getting really scared herself. The boy is really struggling to stay up in front of the TV, but she eventually takes him to his room and reads him his bedtime story. But before she can even go anywhere with the story, little Sam is out like a light, and immediately the lights start flickering and she notices movements outside. She's trying to get some sleep now and she hears sounds outside, but she's relieved when she finds out it's only her dog. But as a famous philosopher once said, the night is still young. Later that night, she watches as the door opens and she hears a voice saying Babadook. Then a monster climbs up to the ceiling and attacks her. Immediately she turns on all the lights, wakes Sam up, and takes him downstairs. She's trying to watch TV now, but the Babadook keeps popping up, but she manages to make it through till morning without sleeping a wink. She now goes upstairs to catch some sleep when Sam comes upstairs to ask for some food, and she snaps at him, telling him to go and eat poop. Sam now runs out of the room and Amelia lies back down, but she can't sleep. She heads straight to her baby boy to apologize, but he doesn't want her to even touch him. He says he isn't hungry anymore. Amelia's explaining to him that she doesn't even know why she said that, and that they need to leave this house ASAP. She offers to bribe him with ice cream for breakfast, and that works. Honestly, even at my age, that would always work on me. By the way, there seems to be a recurring pain in her teeth. Anyway, after breakfast, they get in the car and Amelia says she just wants to drive. But then the roaches are here again, in the car and all over her this time. And then she starts to see visions of the Babadook, which causes her to run into an onrushing vehicle. They head home now. Amelia ignores Gracie, who's saying hi to her, and just goes to sit in her bathtub fully clothed. Sam comes and offers to call Claire, but she doesn't say anything. She instead just carries him and puts him in the bathtub with her, also fully clothed. Sam expresses some fears about his mom going away and she assures him that she's not going anywhere. Later, she goes to lay down on her bed with a violin. Sam goes to join her and says he doesn't think they should stay here tonight. She says she doesn't want them to go anywhere. She just needs to sleep. When Sam insists, she snaps at him again, but this time she sleeps so soundly. Later that night, she's woken up by the voice of the Babadook. She gets up and goes downstairs where she sees Sam on the phone asking Gracie to come and stay the night. Amelia grabs the phone from him and tells Gracie not to bother, that Sam was only being disobedient again. When she hangs up, she yells at him. But that's only the beginning. She takes a knife and goes to cut the phone line. Sam is now apologizing. He says it's just that the Babadook made her crash the car. Before he can even finish his sentence, she cuts him off and says the Babadook isn't real, and that it's just something he made up. She now yells at Sam, waves the knife at him, and then goes out to lock all the doors and windows. She says she'll make sure nothing gets in tonight. After that, we see her trying to feed Sam his pill. The boy says he feels sick, but she forces him to take it. Sam looks like he's scared of his mother now. He looks really frightened. Later that night, Amelia is sitting in front of the TV dozing off when she sees a vision of Sam lying in the bed dead and butchered. She stands up and moves towards him, and then the screams from the boy jerks her back to reality and she realizes what she's doing. She's holding a knife, and it looks like she's about to attack her own son. She gets herself together, goes to drop the knife in the kitchen, and goes off to her room to sit down alone. She cradles her dog, who suddenly wrestles himself away from her, barks at her, and leaves. Then we see her take some ice cream to Sam, and that pain in her teeth comes back. Sam sleeps off on the couch and she starts going through the TV channels, and she gets to one where news of a woman stabbing her son to death is being reported. She spots herself smiling from a window on the news before the lights go out, and she sees her son standing behind her. She watches Sam go off to the basement and she follows him down there, where she sees her husband. She embraces her husband, who now tells her that he will return to her only if she brings him the boy. That's when she slowly starts moving backward, and the man's voice gets deeper and creepier and everywhere goes dark. She runs out to the living room where she sees the Babadook, so she runs upstairs to her room and locks the door. But the Babadook still finds his way in through the fireplace, and she's just on the floor telling herself none of this is real. But boom boom, the Babadook possesses her, and now we see her shaking in a chair in the living room with her son, and her dog hiding away in one of the rooms. The dog comes out and starts barking at Amelia, and then she turns the TV off, gets up and starts chasing the dog. She grabs hold of him, claps the poor thing, and dumps his body on the floor. After she does that, she plucks out the tooth which has been disturbing her with her bare hands, and shortly after she chases her son upstairs. But Sam manages to get into his room and lock the door before she gets there, so she's outside trying to convince him in a sweet tone to open the door. When that doesn't work, she bangs on the door and eventually opens it in beast-like fashion. Her voice too is now beast-like. Inside the room, she hovers towards Sam, who's now so scared that he pees himself. Amelia is telling him that she wishes it was him and not his dad that died, amongst other really hurtful stuff. Sam looks at her and tells her she's not his mother, and he's very right. But that brings out the beast in her, and she screams in her monster voice saying, "I am your mother." But Sam manages to distract this monster with his firecrackers and he runs out of the room. Personally, I would have run straight out of the house, but that's just me. Sam instead runs into another room and straps up with his contraption. He shoots a little arrow into Amelia's arm, throws something at her head, and makes his way out to hide. She walks past where he's hiding and goes to get the door. It's Gracie. She's here to check on Amelia and assures her that she'll do anything for her and Sam. Amelia Amelia dismisses her. Then boom, we see Amelia apologizing to Sam and telling him she wants to make it up to him. At first, all this is sounding cool, but then she starts saying she wants him to meet his dad. What? Now she's running her hands through his body and close to his neck. But Sam is not carried away at all. He stabs her in the leg and runs away. He makes sure to apologize while he runs down to the basement though. Such a good lad. Of course, Amelia chases him, but Sam already has a trap set and she falls into it easily. And she literally falls too and passes out. So he ties her up, and when she wakes up, he's there beside her. He promises not to leave her. Such a sweet kid. He really doesn't deserve any of this. But the beast in her is still screaming and laughing maniacally. But here's the good thing. The boy understands that it's not her. It's the Babadook. He continues to assure her that he loves her and that he's telling her that she let it in. So now she has to let it out. But then Sam gets too close to the monster and she grabs hold of him and starts strangling him. But the boy reaches out and caresses her face. So she just throws him off to the side. Now she's shaking profusely. Then all of a sudden she turns and pukes out some black liquid. After that, she blacks out for a few seconds and later wakes back up. You think it's all over? No, it's not. Sam says you can't get rid of the Babadook. And then some type of force pulls him upstairs and continues to slam him against the wall. Amelia manages to pick him up and put him on the bed and lie down on top of him. The bed is shaking violently now, so Amelia screams and asks, "What do you want?" All of a sudden, silence. And then an apparition of her husband emerges from the dark area in the room. Basically, the Babadook is forcing her to rewatch the traumatic experience of her husband's death. After that, the Babadook now appears, and Amelia repeatedly tells him you're nothing, and tells him that he's trespassing in her house. She tells the monster that if he touches her son again, she'll clap him. And then we see Sam being dragged by some sort of force, but Amelia manages to hold on to him and pull him back to herself. Amelia now lets out a really loud scream, the type that shatters glasses, and the Babadook falls to the floor and is making some sort of snoring noises. And it's over now, right? Well, not yet. Amelia heads over to the fallen Babadook and reaches out to touch it in spite of protests from her son. Immediately as she makes contact, the monster stands up and runs straight for the basement. Amelia quickly follows it and locks the basement door. And it's still not over. Okay, my bad. It actually sort of is this time. A year has now passed and we see Amelia coming back from work and Sam rushing out of Gracie's house to go hug her. His birthday is today and they're having a party for the first time ever. Remember those two visitors in suits that Amelia had earlier? They're back to check on Sam. Obviously things are better, but Sam is still the same outspoken little boy he has always been. Now we see Sam and Amelia throwing darts and picking worms outside. They take the bowl of worms and head to the basement. Actually, Amelia heads to the basement alone and tells Sam to go outside and not come in until she tells him to. She goes to the basement to feed the Babadook. It's first aggressive, but she manages to calm the beast down, and he grabs his bowl of food. She goes back outside to meet her son who has a trick for her. A pretty impressive one actually, and you can see he's happy with how he did it. Finally, he sits on his mom's lap and tells him happy birthday. That's where this one ends. Perhaps Sam could grow up to be Eminem, as they all appear to now be friends with the monster that was once under his bed. Moral of the story? Don't have kids.